Thank you so much for joining in. I'm Oscar Blue for Real America's Voice News. It is the 27th of August. The time it is 1:45 in a West Coast time. Today's topic, it is important. The corruption, how deep it runs when it comes to the cartel kingpins and when it comes to this investigation that is profoundly open up more and more windows to find out how deep it is the corruption in the government of Mexico that is basically getting exposed. And it is basically being pushed by the Trump administration, no other. It is not to praise Trump. It is not like these leftist, progressive mercenary leftist, Marxist, communist, socialist activists. They say, oh, you are a bootlicker of the white man. You're an imperialist. You're a white supremacist. You're a sellout to your own country. No, basically not. I'm a Mexican. I was born and raised here, and I live still here. And we want this problem to be eradicated. We want this problem to be eliminated. We want this problem to be just leave us alone. It is the cartel and it is the organized crime. And it is just that. We are not expecting no more than anything else. We want this problem to be eradicated and eliminated. And since the Trump administration has come into office, a lot of things have happened. This is the question that I have asked multiple times. Will this be happening if Kamala Harris would have been president? And the response, it is obvious. Of course not. Of course, nothing of this will be happening. Caravans will still be flooding the south border of Mexico. Not only that, the Darien Gap will be flooded. Children will be suffering. Women will be abused, sexually abused. Women will be trafficked. Men will be exploited. The enormous extortion and kidnapping in Central America, caravans inside of the border, extortioning and being kidnapped, also paying off the cartels, enormous quantities of billions of dollars of money to these NGOs that they were sucking and living on a human misery. All of this will be continue to be happening if Kamala Harris would have been president. Guess what? An enormous change came, and it is because of the Trump administration implementing the threat of a tariff. Not only that, pressuring Mexico to secure their borders, put National Guard, Mexican National Guardsmen in non-ports of entry where there was an open border gap. Not only that, also putting National Guardsmen in the pedestrian and also the vehicle ports of entry before entering the United States of America to secure that the decrease of drugs was going to be accomplished. Enormous results, according to statistics and stats from the shame-bound administration, only because of the Trump administration. If it wasn't for the Trump administration and this bilateral relationship that is coexisting right now between these two administrations, this would not be accomplished. Let us be honest, because we knew that the Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, if that would have been the administration, this will be a complete disaster. For God's sake, there will not be 55 leaders of cartels being delivered to the United States. You got to be kidding me. That would not be existing. You will not have 50% of decrease of the trafficking of fentanyl into the north borders that connect to the United States of America. That will not be existing. You will not have the exposure of an arrest of more than 20,000 agitators and generators of violent, high-impact criminals being detained and arrested in Mexico. You will not have that. More than 1,200 laboratories have been dismantled in the part of Mexico. And this is due to the pressure of the Trump administration. And also, ultimately, at the end of the day, is the exposure of dirty politicians that their visas have been canceled and the extraction of information that they have been receiving, possibly of El Mayo Zambada and El Chapo Guzman, who these two drug lords and kingpins are now in power of the administration of the United States of America. That it is not only, this is not only is one of the biggest it's the administration that has had more power of extraction of information. So this program, the corruption runs deep. Why? I'm making an issue about this because Lily Tellez, Senator of Mexico, she's the only one who has been fighting against the corrupt government and the corruption that runs deep in our country of Mexico. She has been opening up and speaking in front of Congress and in front of the Senate and saying to every single narco political corrupt politician that they're involved and they're embedded with the cartels. And immediately she gave an interview to Fox News and Fox Hispanic News in the United States of America. And she said that she needed help, and we needed help from the Trump administration to expose the narco politicians and to expose more the narco government. The Mexican president took this as a betrayal. And she said that Lily Tellez should be charged with treason. And also she will be removed from the Senate, which sounded like the Mexican president was protecting basically the cartel. She was not basically protecting the Constitution of that is Article 129 of the Constitution that says no foreign military can enter our country without the consent of the Congress and the Union and the consent of the President of Mexico. Lily Tellez just was asking for help from the American administration to pressure more Mexico, to expose more of the dirty politicians, and to extract these dirty politicians and be taken to justice in the United States of America. That was only what she was asking. She was not asking for more. And immediately this mercenary administration, leftist progressive mercenary administration, crucified her and wanted to remove her from the Senate. And not only that, to charge her with treason. That is one of the most incredible things. Let us go by moment. This is Pam Bondi giving out statements of the detention of El Mayo Zambada, and ultimately not only that, but also saying what El Mayo Zambada is going to do is spend his last days in jail in the United States of America.
Garcia, also known as El Mayo, has confessed to a lifetime of crime in service to the Sinaloa Cartel, a foreign terrorist organization. Thanks to the relentless work of our prosecutors and our federal agents, El Mayo will spend the rest of his life behind bars. He will die in a U.S. federal prison where he belongs. His guilty plea brings us one step closer to achieving our goal of elimination of the drug cartels and the transnational criminal organizations throughout this world that are flooding our country with drugs, human traffickers, and homicides. Under President Trump's leadership, the Department of Justice is on the front lines of this fight. We're standing shoulder to shoulder with all of our law enforcement partners to dismantle these narco terrorists. And that's exactly what they are. They are narco terrorists. El Mayo was one of the most prolific and powerful drug traffickers in this world. His partner was El Chapo. They were co-founders of the Sinaloa Cartel. They brutally murdered multiple people and flooded our country with drugs. Their reign of terror is over. He will never walk free again. Over the last 3 decades, El Mayo and his accomplices made billions of dollars, hundreds of millions each year they were making by bringing poisonous drugs into our country. No longer. The Sinaloa Cartel initially built their businesses with cocaine, but then under El Mayo's leadership, they turned to heroin, they turned to fentanyl. They purchased fentanyl precursor chemicals from China. They made the drug in Mexico and flooded it into our communities, killing our kids. El Mayo also ensured that the Sinaloa Cartel operated and protected its drug trafficking business by relying on extreme violence. Drug kingpin Ishmael Zambada Garcia, also known as El Mayo, has confessed to a lifetime of crime in service to the Sinaloa Cartel, a foreign terrorist organization. Thanks to the relentless work of our prosecutors and our federal agents, El Mayo will spend the rest of his life behind bars. He will die in a U.S. federal prison where he belongs. His guilty plea brings us one step closer to achieving our goal of elimination of the drug cartels and the transnational criminal organizations throughout this world that are flooding our country with drugs, human traffickers, and homicides. Under President Trump's leadership, the Department of Justice is on the front lines of this fight. We're standing shoulder to shoulder with all of our law enforcement partners to dismantle these narco terrorists. And that's exactly what they are. They are narco terrorists. El Mayo was one of the most prolific and powerful drug traffickers in this world. His partner was El Chapo. They were co-founders of the Sinaloa Cartel. They brutally murdered multiple people and flooded our country with drugs. Their reign of terror is over. He will never.
So that's basically it. The statements of Pam Bondi regarding the situation with El Mayo Zambada, which later on El Mayo gave out this statements. These statements that they are important for everybody to understand. Where am I going with this? The corruption, how deep it is in the country of Mexico. So El Mayo Zambada, this article was released by El País. Let me just show it. Let me see if it is on the screen. Yes, it is on the screen. So it was perfectly written by Cedric Raciel. So the title is El Mayo Zambada and the Drug Empire that benefited from corruption in Mexico, keys to the U.S. accusation against the Sinaloa cartel leader. Washington claims the veteran drug lord and other cartel leaders earn $10 million a year from cocaine trafficking alone, while Mayo held assets worth to $15 billion. So where am I going with this? Listen to this. Let me just put my glasses on because I can't, I need them. So for the United States, Ismael El Mayo Zambada was a principal leader of continuing criminal enterprise known as Sinaloa Cartel. In addition, the alias El Mayo was known by nickname, according to several accusations filed by the U.S. Attorney's Office against the drug lord, who pleaded guilty on Monday to conspiracy and directing a drug trafficking criminal enterprise. Washington maintains that the Sinaloa Cartel operated at least the 1990s thanks to the corruption of the Mexican police officials, politicians, and judges. Zambada himself admitted this claim in his hearing in a federal court in New York, where he said that he had indeed paid bribes to security officials and politicians, although he did not name any names, nor will he, according to the drug lord's defense team. So it is obvious that this man paid exacerbated amounts of money to high-rank officials of the military officials, high-rank politicians, high-rank police officers, and ultimately high-rank dirty politicians and everybody that it was involved for him to continue his enterprise of drug trafficking, human trafficking, and all of this that is incredibly now being exposed by I have asked multiple times this question, and I believe that it's an incredible question that I need to ask. Would this be happening if Kamala Harris would have been president? And everybody knows that this would not be happening if Kamala Harris would have been president. Kamala Harris would have been extremely flexible. She would not be pressuring to close the border or to secure the border. She would not be pressuring and anything at all to send leaders or cartel leaders or drug lords into the United States of America to be investigated. She would not be pressuring to these politicians that their visas have been canceled for quite so many times. Their visas have been canceled in several different states, and also mayors and governors. Their visas have been revoked, canceled, or being put on hold. Like the governor of Baja, Marina del Pilar, that her visa was put on hold, but the visa of her husband was canceled. That is speculated that the husband of Marina del Pilar, it is in cahoots with trafficking of gasoline all the way to the north borders, and so on. Now, after that, the visa of the mayor of Nogales was canceled. Also, the visa of the husband of the mayor of Mexicali was canceled, and several other politicians that their visas were canceled. Why? You don't get your visa canceled because you didn't go to Disneyland or you didn't go to Marshall's or Ross to buy on the weekends. You get your visa canceled because you were in cahoots with something bad. And that is the consequence that you pay when, basically you're in cahoots with the organized crime and these criminal organizations. Now, where am I going with this? The statements of El Mayo Zambada are pretty incredible. And on the morning conference of the Mexican president that she holds every day, morning conferences, right? She holds every day a morning conference where she explains and she basically responds every other right-wing narrative. The majority of the journalists that they are there, 90% of them are basically applauding everything that she's saying. And whoever does not applaud what she's saying, or whoever does not agree with the Morena political party, it is a bootlicker of the white man, it is a sellout or a vendepatrias, right? Although we were born in Mexico, we were raised in Mexico, and we have the constitutional right of freedom of speech to question. But for these people that they are more fanatics of a political party, they use the justifications of statistics to cover up what the reality of what is happening in our country with the cartel. It is a reality. What is happening in our country, it is sad. There's multiple extortion, cobro de piso, like we said. Just on Saturday, an entrepreneur from Ensenada, a young man, came out on a viral video, having the courage to come out and said that he had to close his restaurant because of the enormous extortion of the cartel and the cobro de piso on every weekend. He could not allow this to happen anymore because he was risking the life of his family members, also his friends, and also his clients. But where am I going with this? This is where I'm going. Now, I made this report, and this is the report that I made on this particular situation, and I just posted this on my X account. I will go step by step. Why? Because this is the response of the Mexican president when she was asked on the morning conference about El Mayo Zambada paying off dirty politicians, high-ranked officials, dirty police officers. And what she responded was incredible. She said, why El Mayo Zambada doesn't put a complaint to the fiscal general of the state or the authorities. And I said, hold on, lady. Miss President, you're telling the narco leader, terrorist leader, El Mayo Zambada, that he needs to put a complaint to the authorities that he was bribing and that he was paying off high-ranked officials and also military officials? You gotta be kidding me with that. And also, you are trusting that this man that trafficked tons of drugs around the globe, and because of him, there were inner wars inside of the country of Mexico. God knows how many people died under his leadership of this organization and enterprise. And you're asking him to bring evidence. It was incredible to hear this. This is the report that I did. And for you guys to basically watch this, as I made this report and I just posted on X for you guys to see. Watch this. So tell me that your government, it is corrupt without telling me that your government, it is corrupt. This was in the President of Mexico morning conference. You guys know that El Mayo Zambada, drug lord and kingpin of Mexico, has been detained and already is going to be sentenced and he's going to die in jail, according to Pam Bondi. Now, one of the statements that El Mayo Zambada released was that he was paying high-level politicians. He had paid off police officers, federal institutions, and also high-level command military officials. So as soon as this statement came out on the morning conference, the Mexican president was asked about this, and this is what she responded.
En una declaración ante una corte que sí ha habido corrupción por parte de autoridades. Él habla de todos los niveles, desde al menos el año pasado hacia atrás, presidente. ¿Algún comentario acerca de esto?
Pues tendría que haber una denuncia, ¿no? O sea, porque puede decir este tema, pero ¿a quién le daba dinero? De acuerdo con lo que planteó, pues tendría que haber una denuncia, ¿no?
Miss President, you have to be kidding me. So you're telling me that you're giving the power to a narco leader that traffic tons and tons and tons of drugs around the globe. It is complicit of thousands of people that they died in Mexico. Created so many wars interior in Mexico. And you're telling me that he needs to go to the fiscal general of the state to put a complaint about how much he paid off the military, the police officers, and also some corrupt politicians. So you're trusting on his statements to go and put complaints about these officers, but also you're giving the power to a narco terrorist to go and to be legitimate to the fiscal general of the state and put a complaint about the statements that he gave, that he paid off military officials, police officers, and dirty politicians. Tell me that your government, it is corrupt and complicit with the cartel without telling me that your government, it is corrupt and complicit with the cartel. Just a simple morning conference statements, and that will tell you all. So imagine that you are being asked in a morning conference, the biggest campaign that has ever possibly existed in the last 30 plus, possibly 40 years. And he gave out a statement saying, I paid high-ranked officials. He doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to say, because possibly that is a weapon for him for later on to get parole or for later on to negotiate. So he's possibly keeping it. He's smart about it. He's keeping it to himself. So he's not saying names because he's going to create, possibly he's smart about it. He said like, oh, this is a business for me. I can be released if later on I gave out statements and they're going to need my information. But when he gives out and he says that the morning conference of the president, she says, he should have put a complaint. Where he should have put a complaint? To the government? Look, so this is El Mayo Zambada arriving to the fiscal general of the state. How you doing, sir? I'm El Mayo. I don't know you know me, but I have been, basically, generating violence in the country of Mexico for 30 plus years. I'm here to put a complaint about how much money I have been paying the military and the police officers and dirty politicians. So I'm here. You gotta be kidding me with this. Now we are trusting these terrorists to basically put in complaints into the government. It's absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. So I want to put something else that I have been talking about. Is everything's connected. So there has been a senator in our country of Mexico, which she is a Mexican hero. Her name is Lily Tellez. She has been exposing the narco government, exposing the situations interior in the country of Mexico, and also narco politicians that they are involved with the cartel. Clear, obvious, everybody knows this. So she has been outspoken about it. And she went on an interview on Fox Hispanic. in the United States. When she went on an interview, she was asked about the cartel situation and the narco government that is coexisting in Mexico still, and it is deep. She said, we need more help from the Trump administration to fight the cartel off, because that is what the Mexican people want. Immediately on the next day, of course, the mercenary leftist, progressive, leftist mercenary political party started using the language barrier of defense, which is this. Everybody knows their strategy. Everybody knows their strategy. If you do not agree with the left, and I will say this is exactly the same in the United States and everywhere. If you do not agree with the left and what the political party, the narrative of the political party that is in government, the leftists, they will put a watermark on your head and label you. And I have said multiple times this terminology, that it was a strategy at first, but now it is just your strategy is so done that it doesn't work anymore. So they will denigrate you with what certain thing that happened in your life or some situation, and they will label you as that, try to destroy, discriminate, or eradicate your persona. That is a strategy. The leftists, what do they do if you don't agree with it? You're a conspiracy theorist, you're creating hysteria, you're a fear monger, you're a white supremacist, you're a white imperialist, you're a bootlicker of the white man, you're xenophobic, transphobic, homophobic, pronomphobic, fatphobic, you're racist, fascist, narcissist, bigot, sensationalist, alarmist, you're a vendepatrias, you're a sellout to your own country, you're selling out your own people because you have a different opinion. So what Lily Tellez did was went on Fox News Noticias, and she said, we need help. And everybody in the country knows that we actually need help. It is not a lie. And after she said that, the Mexican president went on her morning conference and said, that is treason to our country. So everybody started spreading that she needs to be charged with treason. Not only that she needs to be removed from the Senate. Then later on, that all of that hype was debunked. And later on, the president said, we're not going to remove her from the Senate, and she's not going to be charged with treason. Unbelievable. Because she had a different of opinion, and she wants the cartels to be destroyed. Now, everybody's saying Lily Tellez wants an intervention of our country. Article 129 of the Constitution of Mexico says, no foreign military can enter our country without the consent of the Congress of the Union and the president. If the president says no, it is a no. If the Congress of the Union votes and says no, it is no, people. So she was not asking for the intervention. She was asking for help. Is it something wrong for asking for help? Now asking for help as a senator of what is happening to us, it is a crime. It is something to be crucified. It is something to be labeled as a sellout of your country and your own people. It is to be labeled as a vendepatrias when these people are not even living the consequences that we're going through over here. This is the interview of Lily Tellez and on Fox News, so you guys can understand what actually happened. Let me just open up right here, this, and you guys can understand what actually happened. Listen to this.
The president of Mexico is furious. She's calling Mexican Senator Lily Tellez a traitor for coming on Fox Noticias with me a few days ago and saying this. Listen.
The help from the United States to fight the cartels in Mexico is absolutely welcome, and that is how the majority of Mexicans feel. The only ones who don't like that President Trump is sending help and trying to support Mexicans against the cartels are the narco politicians. That includes President Sheinbaum.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum responding, saying, quote, it's not a minor issue that a senator gave an interview to a foreign media outlet calling for intervention. Here to discuss is that Mexican Senator Lily Tellez. Senator Tellez, welcome to Fox Noticias. I'm just going to get right to it. Is Mexico a narco state?
Yes, it is. And we all Mexicans know about it. And Mexicans are afraid of the alliance between the Mexican government and the cartels that have infested our nation.
Can you explain this alliance between the president, her party, the Morena party, and the cartels?
Yes, the party has financed, has given, the cartels have given so much money to these politicians, narco politicians of Morena, to get into office, to get the power. So they protect, the Mexican government protects the cartels. That is why President Sheinbaum doesn't want the strong American leadership to help Mexico defeat the cartels. And also Sheinbaum doesn't want the rest of the world to know what is happening here in Mexico. We are on the steps to be the next Venezuela. She is aligned with Venezuela's dictator, with Cuba, and we are losing our country. They have destroyed our Republican institutions, the democratic state, and we must, I think we all Mexicans want and welcome the support of the United States to assist Mexican people against the cartels that have us all in this crisis with the traffic in fentanyl and migrants.
So her response to this, and I know this because her spokesperson came on our show in response to your interview, and they say, well, we just turned over 26 cartel members. We're working, we're sharing intelligence. What are they not doing? And why is she so resistant? She sort of speaks out of two sides of her mouth. We're working with you, Trump, and then she's chastising you for saying we need more help from the United States to crush the cartels.
Because she really doesn't want the help of the United States. She is lying to Mexican people, telling Mexican people that the United States will get in control of the whole country.
Right.
I never listened such nonsense from President Trump. What we have listened is that President Trump wants to help Mexican people against the cartels. Mexican people are suffering. So what they do is very, very little. We have huge narco politicians here in the Senate, in the presidents, governors. Mexico is a very dangerous place.
Well, that brings me to my next question, because you are speaking very bluntly, very clearly about Mexico being a narco state and the alliance and the connections to the president of Mexico. Are you afraid for your life?
Yes, I am afraid. And the president has threatened me to proceed against me with criminal prosecution, to get me out of the Senate and get me in jail, just because I told you in this space and Fox News what is the reality of our country with the cartels. The cartels are dominating everything here in Mexico. They are in all the offices of the government, in the states, in the cities, and in the national government. So, of course, I am afraid, but I want people to know I will not step back. And I pray under God's guidance that we, the United States and Mexico, must work together to defeat the cartels and to get freedom for our country, for Mexico, to stop it from being the next Venezuela.
Unbelievable. She is a Mexican hero on my eyes. She's an incredible woman. And I have been following her for years. And for me, she is has the goal and the courage to just step in and to say things like it is, but in the next level, like in the Senate, and say it to their faces, to these narco politicians, to these narco government, or what is actually happening in our country. And if it wasn't for the Trump administration, I will tell you, this will be a complete disaster right now in the borders. And ultimately, they will not be delivering no narco leaders to the United States. This was our hit the other day on Real America's Voice News. It is me talking about this particular topic, that is Lily Tellez expressing her feelings and also defending our country. This was me on Eric Bowling on Real America's Voice.
Yeah, Senator Lily Tellez, I will describe it to you, Eric, as a Mexican hero. She's the only senator and the only politician who is fighting against the narco government in our country of Mexico. She has had the gall and the courage to go after every narco politician and every politician in Congress and in the Senate to accuse them to be in cahoots with the organized crime and the cartel. Just recently, in an interview with Fox News, she said, we need help from the Trump administration to fight the cartel and to fight the narco government. And immediately, the leftist progressive mercenary political party of Morena went after her and tried to charge her with treason and try to remove her from the Senate because the president of Mexico doesn't want to designate the cartels as terrorists and doesn't want to expose the dirty politicians that they are involved in our Mexican government, that if it wasn't for Trump and if it wasn't for the Trump administration, this enormous change, this 55 leaders of cartels that they have been extradited or delivered to the United States, the hundreds of thousands of criminals that they have been arrested, and more than 50% decrease of distribution of fentanyl. This would not be happening if Trump would not be in office. If Kamala Harris will be in office right now, it will be a complete disaster. And Lily Tellez, it is the only politician, a Mexican hero, who has been defending the sovereignty of Mexico and going after the cartels and basically asking the Trump administration to come and pressure more the Mexican government to expose the dirty politicians. Eric.
Oscar L. Blue, Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo, the president of Mexico, where does she stand with regards to Lily Tellez?
Well, at first, she accused her in front of everybody and in front of the world of treason, to our country, because she misinterpreted and said that on the interview, Lily Tellez asked for an intervention in our country of Mexico. She completely did not ask that. She's completely incorrect. It is against our Constitution, Article 129 of the Constitution of Mexico, that no foreign military can intervene without the consent of the Congress of the Union and also the Mexican president. Then later on, she said, we are not going to remove Lily Tellez from the Senate, and also we're not going to accuse her of treason. Why? Because she's completely incorrect. The only thing that Lily Tellez is asking, it is to fight the cartel, to fight the narco government of this political party that is clearly in cahoots. Eric, let me just tell you a little story that happened. An entrepreneur in Ensenada, Baja California, a young man, had to close his seafood restaurant that he started from scratch, and he came out on a video explaining to the world that he is asking, the cartel is asking him monthly for a tax amount, el cobro de piso, that is better known over here, to pay for him to operate and to be freely operating his restaurant. These kind of circumstances are happening because the corrupt government, it is completely involved with the cartel. And the only one that has been exposing this, it is the Trump administration. Without the Trump administration doing this, we will be in a lot of trouble.
That is our hit that we did on the network, talking about Lily Tellez and the enormous corruption. Now, there is two things. I will take your questions right now in a second, and I will read your comments at some point. There's two questions right here. One of them, it is why we are having so much difficult time to basically express and to have our constitutional rights being violated. That is the freedom of speech, Article 6 and 7 of the Constitution of Mexico. And the senator is just expressing her, her inconformities to what is actually happening in our country. It is a reality. We live under a narco government. This that just happened not too long ago, it happened on Saturday. A young entrepreneur came out on Saturday on a viral video here in Ensenada, Baja California, saying, I am getting taxed every week by the cartel. I am being corruptibly being, extortioned every day. And if I don't pay it off, these people are going to take away my life. I got to close my business. It's a young man. It came out brave enough to explain. And it just tells you this young man said, you know what? We don't have no options anymore. This is the options that I have. I have to close my business. I don't know where am I going to go. I don't know where am I going to be staying at. I need to move out of the city. That's one of the things that is for sure. I need to move out of the city because he's going to get, immediately kidnapped, extortion, whatever it is the case. And the sad thing about it is that because of these kind of circumstances and these kind of situations, we push people out. This is the way our good people are leaving, our entrepreneurs, the future of our country of Mexico. It is actually leaving. These kind of are examples of people leaving because of the violence, because of the insecurity, because of the enormous corruption, the extortion. We want that to stop. There's a point where every Mexican says, I had enough. I have been explaining this for quite some time. And I gave an example the other day about this. There's a story when I was the first time covering the war. After October 7th, I went there 2 weeks after to Israel to cover the war. And I was in Ashdod, really close to the borderline. There was a lot of activity. There was a lot of bombing, and we can actually hear it. And we were consistently going through these bunkers, and we were securing ourselves. And after we were securing ourselves, I was in a bunker, and there was some, officials that right there with us. There was drones flying by. There was booms everywhere. Chuck Holton, my mentor, was in that bunker with me. And there was a high rank official that looked at me, and I had my backpack with the Mexican patch, the Mexican flag in the patch. And he told me, hey, you're from Mexico. And I said, yeah. And it was like, and like, hey, what city you from? And I've been there, he says. And I'm like, oh, wow. Tijuana? He says, wow. Tijuana's really dangerous. When you realize what he said at that moment, we were at a bunker. There were missiles flying by. There were drones exploding nearby. There were consistent booms on every side because it was just 2 weeks after October 7th. They were going head on. There was in the gray impact zone, and there was the impact zone continuously going on. And I started realizing this is where I live. This is where we live. It is a difficult area. It is a difficult place. I was in a war zone, and this guy was saying, it is really dangerous over there, huh? The contrast when you get out of your comfort zone and when you move out of a city where you have lived all your life, and when somebody else tells you that in a war zone, it's really shocking. I started realizing on our way back to the Airbnb, I was silent the whole time. It was a 1 hour drive. It was silent, and then Chuck told me, like, hey, are you okay? And I'm like, you okay? It was a lot of bombing, it's a lot of booms. Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. So why so quiet? So I explained to him the whole experience. And he said, you need to get the hell out of that city. I'm like, well, that's where I live. That's my whole situation where I have lived. And so you accustom yourself, where I got a point where I'm going. You accustom yourself to this normalization of this conduct, this normalization to say, there was a cartel war in Sinaloa, and it's still going on for 10 months. That's normal. There was a dismembered body that was found the other day. That's normal. Oh, there was a decapitated head the other day. Oh, that's normal. There was a cartel banner that it was put on a bridge. Oh, that's normal. So you start realizing these things are not normal. They're not supposed to be normal. They're supposed to be stopped immediately and detained. But because of the corrupt government, it just lets the citizens suck it in and make it normal. And this conduct has been affecting the children. It has been a normalization of a conduct, and psychologically a child, understands that this is normal. This is the narco cultura, the narco culture that we are so adapted to. And if we are against the narco culture, you're less of a man, or you are a traitor to your own people. It's unbelievable, these signalizations. So these kind of conducts are the ones that got us to this point. El hartazgo. We are sick and tired of it. And Lily Tellez, it is the only person that is saying that out loud in the Senate. She's basically screaming for millions and millions of Mexicans. Millions and millions of Mexicans that we're sick and tired of it. Hundreds of thousands of mothers that they're searching for their family members that they were abducted, extortion, kidnapped, and buried on a mass grave. And they're still sending for them. That, by the way, I think that it's on Saturday, there's going to be the no, it's next Saturday, I think. So it is the celebration of the missing people over here and the kidnapped people in Mexico. There's thousands of people. And this is going to be shadow banned by the political party that we are run by. They're going to say, oh, why you didn't put the claim? It was the fault of the parent because the parent not educated the child correctly, and the child went to the cartel member, and the cartel member extracted and abducted this child. So it is not even the fault of the cartel member. It goes back to the parent. You got to be kidding me. We know that was bad parenting, but you're protecting the cartel? You're actually saying that the cartel member was not even his fault to abducting, killing, raping, and abusing, and then murdering, and then burying in a mass grave? So that goes all the way to the parent? It's unbelievable. We know that we have bad parenting. Every country has bad parenting. Look what is going on right now in Columbia University, in Harvard, in Stanford, in Yale, and all these progressive liberal universities that they believe socialism, it is okay. And they believe socialism, it is applicable like it is in the book. It is applicable in life. And when they start realizing, oh my God, this is not the way the book says it is going to go. Oh, so socialism doesn't work. I thought that socialism had to work. It's unbelievable. So I wanted to make that parenthesis to just say that. Oh, just a little, just a little parenthesis also I wanted to say. Just recently, an executive order was passed in the United States of America, which it says that now it is going to be illegal to burn the American flag. At the end of the day, progressive mercenary leftists were the immediate ones. They started complaining about it and said, oh my God, how dare you take away my rights to burn my flag? I have the right to burn it. And they complain about it. And I made a video on Instagram and I posted that video. And it says, what took you so long? And it is actually a reality. What took you so long for you to realize and understand that should be illegal on all terms? You should not have the freedom to burn your own flag. It is a complete sign of disrespect. In Mexico, they will actually take you to prison if you tamper with the flag. Article 54 of the Constitution and Article 188 of the Constitution of Mexico says that you cannot tamper with the flag. And if you tamper with the flag, you will be arrested. So what took you so long? All these mercenary leftists, did they have the freedom to burn their own flag? Oh my God, this guy, F you Trumper. I'm not a Trumper. I'm just saying you cannot be burning your own flag and another flag in a foreign country. That is against the law now. And it is, for me, it was against the law in my country. We're like, what the hell they're doing? They're burning their own flag? Wow, they have the freedom to do that? Next thing is voter ID. That hopefully that will be a thing that is now normalized, and it is legitimately a law that you need to have voter ID to vote, which compromises and says that you were born in that country, and it gives you legitimacy to have the right to vote for a public official, mayor, senator, congressman, whatever it is, governor, president. Hopefully they will regularize and they will legalize voter ID in the United States of America, which in Mexico we have. Since you turn 18, you got to go and get your ID. Basically has your information, your address, who you are, your date of birth, all the information that a normal ID has. But that normal ID it is also a voter ID, which that ID will tell you you have the ability to vote because you're 18 and 18 and up. You're an adult now. Hopefully that will be the next step for you to have clean elections, transparent elections. That is one of the things why it is so a problem. Paper in ballots, all this illicitness that is happening in your elections, it can basically be more transparent and has a reinforcement if you had voter ID. Hopefully that will pass. But that is a whole different game because you have the part of California, which is a complete disaster. Now, I made a report on California, and I will post this. I will play this video. Let me see if there's the videos right here. I will play this video right now on the situation in California. What happened in California? So I made this video of this report and what is happening with the Californian situation. So the California situation, it is that there is a mass migration of Californians into the border towns in Mexico. What is happening with that? Why it's happening? The majority of them are Hispanic Americans. Also, you have white Caucasian Americans. Also, you have Asian Americans. Also, you have Black Americans, which they are migrating to Mexico because of the level of expense and the rent money. So there was a comment in this video, which it was completely out of line, says those are not Americans because they're not speaking English. They were in the vehicle line in Mexico. They were about to cross. They don't have the obligation to speak English if they want to. So I interviewed like 3 or 4 of them, U.S. citizens, Hispanic Americans, and I asked them, why you moved to Mexico? And they said, the rent costs. In California, it is completely unsustainable. And one of them said, I moved over here because the food costs, it is much cheaper over here than in the United States. The catastrophe in the economy of Gavin Newsom, it is completely unsustainable. This is why you have more than 200,000 U.S. citizens that they have migrated to Mexico because they cannot afford to live in California anymore. It's a reality. I'm not lying. Check this report that I made, and I will put this report right here for you guys to watch. See this report for you guys. The state of Baja California has become a witness to a growing migration trend of thousands of Californians that are crossing the border not as tourists, but as new residents. The city of Tijuana in particular has seen a significant influx of U.S. citizens, Hispanic Americans, and dual nationals who are being pushed south by the soaring cost of living in California. Rising housing prices, higher taxes, and an overall unaffordable economy in cities like San Diego and Los Angeles are forcing many to seek alternatives. Disastrous economy of Gavin Newsom in California has pushed a lot of U.S. citizens, more than 200,000 U.S. citizens, almost to be exact, according to a census, to the Mexican side in Tijuana, municipal cities like Tecate, and also in Mexicali. They're willing to risk living over here in Tijuana, wait in line for more than 3 hours because of the unsustainable housing and cost of housing in California, the unsustainable cost of gasoline, and the unsustainable food. In some cases, they say that the food, it is way cheaper to buy it in Mexico than to buy the food in California. It is incredible what is happening to the city of Tijuana as exacerbated lines for more than 3 hours every day from Monday to Friday to cross to the United States, and 1 hour to cross from the United States to Tijuana. 4 hours per day, 5 days a week. That is 20 hours dedicated to this crossing instead of living on one of the most beautiful states in the world that is like California. This is your economy, Gavin Newsom, and this is what you have done to your beautiful state and people. At the international crossing of San Isidro, we talked to several U.S. citizens and Hispanic Americans who their number one complaint it is the disastrous economy of Gavin Newsom and also the unsustainable prices on housing and food.
Las rentas, el mortgage, todo está muy caro. Entonces, Es difícil solventar los gastos,
La renta, los costos de
la
gasolina.
comida, todo subió exageradamente.
Usted es ciudadano americano.
Sí.
O sea, ¿usted ha preferido tomar ese riesgo de vivir en California por el costo de vida?
Por el costo de vida, sí.
Todos los días usted cruza hacia los Estados Unidos, más o menos ¿cuántas horas se avienta cruzando?
Pues cuando no están los escolares, es más rápido. 1 hora, a veces media hora, a veces 2 horas.
¿Es ciudadano americano usted?
Sí, señor.
¿Y esto cómo ha repercutido usted en la economía de California? ¿Es mucho lo que pagan allá en California por la renta?
Sí, bastante.
Sí, por eso se vino a vivir.
Sí, tengo que ir.
En Tijuana, California, muchos ciudadanos americanos como usted. ¿Cuál es la razón por la cual se viene mucha gente para acá?
Sí, porque es más económico vivir en Tijuana que...
¿Es insostenible la renta en Estados Unidos?
Están por las nubes las rentas. Mi hijo ahorita está trabajando allí, paga 2,100 creo de renta, con una recámara nada más.
¿Una recámara?
Sí.
O sea, y agregando el costo de gasolina, el costo de comida.
Sí, pues échale números ahí.
We waited more than an hour and we talked to several U.S. citizens, Hispanic Americans, that the majority of them, their number one complaint that is the unaffordable housing. But the most amazing thing was a statement from a young lady, a U.S. citizen, that she said, we came over here also for the food prices. It is much cheaper to buy over here in Mexico than the United States. El costo de la renta en Estados Unidos está altísimo.
Sí, es muy alta. La renta ha subido mucho y mucha gente tiene esa opción de venir a Tijuana y está cruzando diario.
Son miles de personas que vienen aquí a vivir.
Sí, sí.
¿Conoce usted muchas de sus amistades?
Sí.
Y es lo mismo, ¿no? El costo de vivienda, el costo de comida, gasolina.
Bueno, es que la comida es mucho más barata aquí. La gasolina yo creo que es lo mismo.
Tijuana has been one of the most violent cities in the world. Recently, it was in the top 5 for violence and homicides in the whole country of Mexico. But U.S. citizens are willing to risk that just to come over here and save a lot of money. Now, what has been the collateral damage and the consequence of an exacerbated economy of dollar surpassing the peso and completely removing some Mexican and Tijuana citizens from their housing that it was affordable. Now the rent cost, because of the enormous influx of Californians, has completely gone up.
On the eastern side of Tijuana, housing prices are rising sharply. 3-bedroom homes can be found around $980 a month, while larger units with 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms are listed in $1,500. For comparison, the weekly minimum wage for an average Mexican worker, it is about 2,500 pesos, roughly $150. This means that even a full month wages barely can cover a fraction of what is now the cost to rent in many parts of the city. Near the Otay Mesa port of entry on Tijuana's east side, it is a copy-paste of what is happening also on the San Isidro port of entry.
Every port of entry and every vehicle port of entry, not only vehicle, but also pedestrian port of entry, the time to cross to every side, it is incredible. 3 hours on this particular site, also in Otay Mesa, 3 hours in the part of San Isidro on the vehicle port of entry, but also the pedestrian crossing. It takes a long time to cross. Citizens are willing to take that risk, willing to spend that amount of time because of the contrast of the economy of Gavin Newsom and the Democratic policies in California.
We travel to the west side of the city of Tijuana in a neighborhood called Playas de Tijuana, where you are going to be surprised at the cost of rent of a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom house and the requirements that they're asking. We had a phone call with the owner and she said, "Are you a U.S. citizen? Do you have a Century line?"
We came to the west side of the city in a neighborhood that is called Playas de Tijuana, predominantly the majority U.S. citizens and residents. This is the cost for a 4-bedroom house with 4 bathrooms. It is incredible, the cost, but more than that, the requirements. They're telling you if you are a U.S. citizen or if you have a Century line. Listen to this.
Calling from to just for information on the house that you guys are renting right here in Playas.
Okay. The price is $2,650, $2,650. Is it in your budget?
What are the requirements that you need for me to be interested in the house?
Okay, first we need your application. Do you work in the States or you work here in Mexico? Do you have a Century?
The contrast on the United States of America and a U.S. citizen, it is affordable, this housing, for a rent of $2,600. But if you go to the minimum wage of an average Mexican Tijuana citizen national, it is completely unaffordable.
the economy of Gavin Newsom and the unsustainable cost of housing, food, and gasoline have pushed Californians to migrate to the other side of town into the Mexican territory. This is not only happening in the city of Tijuana or the state of Baja California, it is happening around all the states that they're connected to the American territory. I'm Oscar Blue for Real America's Voice News. Stay safe. That was our report on that topic. That topic, it is going to be next week. I'm going to have a guest to talk about that. And we're going to discuss that topic in a, in a live feed for people to just be watching in the next week. We're going to discuss that of this economy of California. It is a disastrous and unsustainable economy. A lot of people are migrating. They're moving to Florida. They're moving to somewhere else in terms to the American territory, right? They're migrating through their territory inside of the United States of America. But outside, they are willing to cross to Mexico and to live over here and to basically commute every time back and forth, making it a 5-hour commute every day, 3 to 5 hour commute every day, making it about 20 hours a day. That is 1 day of your week dedicated to be sitting down, making a line on a vehicle to cross the United States, which makes you understand you're basically living in a car for 1 day driving every week of your life. In 6 days a week, you're living, just working consistently and going back to your home. It's amazing what the American economy of Gavin Newsom, what they have done to their own Californian people. And, Hispanic Americans are willing to go back and to basically live in Mexico, in preference to be living in the United States, which an older man that I was interviewing right here, an older man was telling me, my son rents a 1-bedroom apartment in California for $2,100. 1-bedroom apartment for $2,100. You have to be kidding me. I don't know how they sustain themselves. I really do not know how. It's incredible. Now, what I showed on the video, it was the house that it was renting in Mexico, in Tijuana, 4-bedroom, 4 bathrooms, $2,650. How in the hell is that going to be affordable for a Mexican? Never. Not even making double of what they make in a low income. It will make you get through just even half of it. It's not even triple. If you make triple, you will not even get to the point of paying rent. It's unbelievable, the rent cost, how it has gone up in cities like Tijuana, Tecate, Mexicali, that they're connected to the United States, to California, because of the enormous influx of Americans coming over here. And the rent cost has gone up because they know that the majority of them work in the States. They commute from back and forth from Mexico to the States, from States to Mexico. And this has gone up, and it's incredible. It is just the disastrous economy of Gavin Newsom, one of the most beautiful states possibly in the world, that is California. And it is a complete disaster. It's just a complete disaster. There's no other way to call it. It is a complete disaster. Thank you so much for joining in. Oscar Blue right here, live for every single one of you. I want to just say thank you to our contributors and ultimately all the people that they have been supporting. So I want to say thank you to all of you guys. Buy me a coffee. It is right there for people to want to contribute to my independent reporting and travel fund. So I want to say thank you to Dixie. Thank you to Anonymous. Thank you to Koki. Thank you to Dina. Thank you to Maddie. Thank you to Denise. Thank you to Cecile. Thank you to Javier. Thank you to Miss Barbara and also Anonymous. Thank you so much. You can become a supporter and also a subscriber and buy me a coffee. It is right there pinned in the chat for people that want to contribute to independent reporting and travel fund. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. It was a pleasure to be with you guys this evening, talk about these topics that I believe that they are really important topics, so we're going to be developing them in the next incoming days, which is going to be more important for us to continue to push them. God bless you all. Stay safe. And like we always say, God's plan, it is our